I wanted to ask you about Fast as a Shark. That song is obviously a cornerstone for what came to be known as speed metal. And
Mm.
when you guys were putting that song together, was there ever any thought in your mind about reining it in and thinking maybe this is just entirely too fast? People aren't going to get it because nobody had heard that kind of music before. Was there a temptation to kind of slow it down a bit and make it a little more contemporary for the times? Or was it all about full speed ahead? It can't be fast enough.
No, that wasn't. I mean, that was during a time I told you about the three Marshall sacks and the big. This was a time in our life when we said, "Fuck contemporary, fuck all that stuff. We're not going to try to be a radio friendly band. We're just going to do as we please. We're going to be outrageous, no matter the consequences." Because we had tried on our first couple of albums, especially on the second one, we tried to really listen to our publishing company and the label, and they tried to say, well, you got to have radio songs or else you're not going to go anywhere, that whole thing.
Right.
And we did that, and it turned out to be, it didn't get us anywhere, and it didn't feel right. So during that time of Restless and Wild, particularly, we thought, you know what, let's just have fun and do what we feel is right, and at least we're going to, I don't know, but we gave up on the whole trying to please people thing, which was just wanted to shock people, and if it's a little outrageous, hell yeah, let's do it.
Right.
And especially our drummer at the time, Stefan Kaufmann, he was all about bigger and more and faster and harder and like, everything on 10,
Yeah.
And he came up with that riff, and he played that on his double kick, and he also played guitar, by the way, quite well.
Mm-hmm.
And he came up with that initial riff and said, why don't we do this like this, and then we wrote the rest together, and I came up with all the middle part for it, and then of course the intro, that was a whole nother story of, but it was during that time when we felt really ballsy, and we said, let's just, go all out and have fun. But in no way could we imagine that people would really, I thought people would be shocked and like take a little notice and might be a little controversial. But nobody had any idea that it would inspire people to, start their own speed metal bands or the whole genre, let alone that. I mean, it was just
quite an impact.
A bit of fun. We had no idea that people would even pay attention outside of Europe or anywhere,
Yeah, yeah.
So it's crazy in retrospect.
It turned music upside down, and music as we know it. I know Jason and I, we thought, we were listening to Judas Priest and Iron Maiden and things like that, but there was something about the first time you heard Fast as a Shark where your jaw hit the floor.
I've heard that story from so many people after the fact, years later, and guys in big bands too. And when I thought, like, really? Oh, it makes me. I mean, it's beautiful, but
yeah.
It's countless people. Kirk Hammett, anyone, just, throw 5 more names that caliber. Fast as a Shark kind of changed the way they played guitar.
So, so that's basically why, I invented heavy metal.
There you go. I wanted to also ask you
Had I known, I would have paid more attention and done something better,
I think you did just fine. I think you did great. We owe you a debt of gratitude for that song and
changed
all the bands
world.
it inspired.
Yeah.
Change the world. Now, exactly. Now we're talking. We changed the world.
I wanted to also ask you about the song, also from your past, the song "I'm a Rebel." I understand it was written for AC/DC. Clear that up for me. I don't really understand what became of it, if AC/DC recorded it and then but didn't release it, or shed some light on that song for us.
Okay. So I just mentioned the time of our second album, I'm a Rebel, when we were told to be more radio friendly and sort of because at that time, a lot of bands did that, even bands like we admired, like Sweet, I believe, and a lot of bands did cover songs to get into the market and to make a name of themselves. A lot of their first hits weren't really their own compositions. So we were told, there's no shame in doing that, guys. And I've got a great, actually our publisher came up with that idea because he had a guy on his roster. His name was Alec Young, but he called himself George Alexander. He was a guitar player and a relative of the Young brothers of AC/DC fame.
Right.
He played in a band called the Easy Beats.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And anyhow, he had written this song in the hopes that AC/DC would record it. And that song is I'm a Rebel. And AC/DC made a demo for it with Bon Scott. And for some reason or another, they didn't like it. It didn't make the cut, but that song was still kicking around. And that's our publisher came up with that idea from Schacht Verlag in Hamburg. His name is Rudi Holzhauer. And he said, hey guys, why don't you try that song? I think it would maybe we could make a video for it and you probably get some airplay with it. So that's the story. So that we got the cassette and learned that song, recorded it, and of course lost the cassette with Bon Scott on it.
Damn.
Yeah, you know. So it's long gone, but it existed, and I still heard that Rudi Holzhauer guy, the publisher guy. He came to one of our shows maybe 10, 12 years ago, and he brought it with him because I wanted to hear it again. And that original version was awesome. That was really cool because Bon Scott, by default, is awesome.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
And actually, their version, I like it much better than our version.
Wow.
You know, it is in the archive, and it will never see the light of day. So
Well, and you still play the song live sometimes.
we still do because
Yeah.
people love it. I
Yeah.
personally, I'm not a great fan of it because it's major and it's kind of na 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 na. It's got a little
Happy.
silly, but
Yeah.
people love it, so we play it, and it's great fun.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, you guys still have like a bit of rock and roll feel to your band, even though the world has this image when you say accept, it's this crushing metal all the time. But you have a very rock and roll sensibility about even the new stuff with Mark. I feel like there was like Burning is the rock and roll Chuck Berry groovy thing. There's a lot of that
Well,
stuff going
we've
on.
just
still.
decided to dig that out. By the way, Burning. We're going to play
Burning?
Burning.
So good. It's so good.
Yeah, it is definitely rock and roll.
Yeah.
I've always been a fan of it. You know, I've always been a fan of AC/DC and stuff. You know, we never wanted to be 100% like them, but we always had that influence in us. You know,
Yeah.